Welcome to the next episode of the Teacher Zone with Chris and Tyler. My name's Tyler Maroff. I'm the co-founder of Teacher Zone, along with my partner here, Chris Bates, and wonderful and beautiful co-host. How are you, sir?
I'm awesome. What's up?
Hey, man. Before we start, I wanted to say I'm grateful for you.
You know what? I want to say I'm grateful for you.
Okay.
So, yeah. So if you guys haven't figured it out, this cheesy episode, no. This episode, we're going to talk about gratitude and how important it is in all of our lives. And
Right.
So the reason we thought about this, or one of the reasons, is number one, doing what we do is super hard, right? Running a business, it's not easy.
Ebbs and flows.
So,
It really does.
Yeah.
Like you'll have 4 busy, great days in a row where you're moving the needle, and then the next week is like 2 days of trauma. And
the outside world, yeah, and the outside world, it's so interesting, whether it's our staff or whether it's friends and family.
Right.
If you don't own a business, you can't relate.
Right.
You just don't get it. You don't get how many balls we're actually bouncing. Right. So we had an experience, and Tyler, you can tell that story. Tyler and I are we're in an elite coaching group for software owners, and is one of our tribes. And so in this tribe, we were doing a huge intensive, and we were all learning about a bunch of stuff. And then a really humbling moment happened. And Tyler, why don't you tell that story, and that'll tee this off.
So maybe some of you have done these intensives or summits before, and you've got a big workbook. There's a bunch of curriculum in place, and this one happened to be on customer success, all facets of it. 2 8-hour days, amazing, and there's 400 plus software owners and founders on this thing globally, Italy, France. Like, it was just really, really great. We love this group very much, and then they have Q&As, and they've got the moderators handling the Q&As through this ultimate Zoom. Like, they have the ultimate setup for this. It's just fantastic. And during these Q&As, for the whole 2 days until the very end, they're very good questions, stock questions, business-related questions, not the most vulnerable, little bit of vulnerability because, hey, we're failing and we need help with this. Our business, our customer success avenue is failing here, but then we related, right? We related, but it wasn't what happened at the end. So we have the very last Q&A. We're done after this, and people raise their hands. There's a line of people, and a couple people go first, and then this young man, this founder, comes on, and I won't say his name, but he touched all of us at once. And I got to admit, I was kind of taken back for a second, Chris. He started to talk about how he has been listening and receiving all the information from the intensive, and it's just been, he started to well up. Like, when they took the break, he was in tears. They in his small group that broke off, he couldn't function for a sec because everything was so overwhelming, and he just wanted to let everybody know that he knows it's part of it, but he also wanted to throw himself out there, along with letting everyone know that if they're feeling this way, that we understood. And I thought it was so brave, vulnerable, and gracious, and also traumatic at the same time. It was a lot of feelings at once that he was brave enough to come forth in front of everybody in that world. We're talking multi-million-dollar businesses across the board, and this guy, who you could tell was successful, was not feeling successful.
Vulnerability is one of the most powerful tools. So if you're struggling with your leadership a little bit, I'm not talking about playing the victim, because that's a difference. I honestly, I have zero patience for victims. Anybody out there, my family, friends, or whatever, I stay away from you if you're a victim person, just so you know.
Now, we're not talking about real victims. We know who you are.
No. I'm talking about poor me, woe is me, woe is me. You know what? It's hard for everyone.
Loves company, and we don't. Yeah. Birds of a feather flock together.
That's a power play. Yeah, so that's a power play. This is not that. What this is this is true vulnerability, and people can tell the difference, because true vulnerability is saying, I'm a strong person, but I don't always feel strong. And I'm going to let you guys know that right now I'm not feeling strong. And that's why it really touched us, because my first reaction was, oh my gosh, I can't believe
I couldn't believe he was saying it.
Oh yeah, that was both of ours. Like, I can't believe he's sharing this.
Like, honestly, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see my hand gestures. I was like, wait, are you going to do it? Oh, he's doing it. Like I was watching it unfold. Not that I've never done that before, but 400 people of that caliber. That's the first time I've seen it happen in that scope. Like, it was wild.
There's a difference between honest, heartfelt vulnerability. And so I want you all to know that if you're feeling that way, first of all, let us know, but because we are a community and we do all care about each other, you're not alone.
Right.
And that vulnerability also really takes us to this place why we chose gratitude, is because what gratitude is at its core is gratitude is saying, I'm not going to wait until a certain finish line or a certain event or a certain goal happens. Gratitude says, I'm going to let myself, even though there's a lot of stress and things going on, I'm going to be okay right now. I'm going to let myself be okay. I'm going to say, you know what? Everything right now that I have going on, of course, I've not achieved whatever milestones you're going for yet. That's part of the journey. That's the adventure.
Right.
And we were so proud of that guy that he had actually been vulnerable, that, the community opened up and expressed gratitude.
The chat blew up. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And it also shows a willingness, Chris. There's a lot of principles that come into play to get gratitude. And we all have the choice to pull the lever, right? Whether it's while you're shaving, looking in the mirror, and you can choose to go, wow, yesterday sucked and it's not done. Or you can take a breath, and then the willingness comes in. So his willingness to be vulnerable made an impact on us to where we wanted to do a not as much business related podcast and do a little bit more foofy one, because you know what? Chris and I are that way anyways. If you didn't know that yet, it was about time we did this episode. So, but the willingness for that man to come on and be willing to say, I am not an island. In the first
I'm overwhelmed right now was the gist. It was that, you know what? I've got so many things I can do for my business. I don't freaking know where to start, and I feel totally overwhelmed.
Yep.
And that's, we were all so grateful to him. And then afterwards, he expressed gratitude back for the support to just allow him to be vulnerable for a minute. And the big thing that Tyler and I took away from that, obviously vulnerability is important. And if you're not vulnerable with your staff, then they probably aren't relating to you maybe as much as they could.
Right.
But it isn't about vulnerability.
And we'll define that in a second too, guys. If this is all new to you and you haven't had a chance to really dive into understanding or deepening your understanding of leadership, being vulnerable doesn't mean, like Chris said, walking around being victim, letting them know that you don't feel good that day or something like that. Please don't think that that's what we're talking about.
Tyler and I we're warriors, right? So we're fighters, right? We absolutely love the idea of, practicing strength and working on ourselves and working on getting stronger. But you know what? We're all human. And throughout every day, Tyler and I have weakness. Throughout every day, Tyler and I's strength wanes and isn't at its peak, because our energy levels throughout the day are obviously always fluctuating. And so a lot of time your strength is based on your energy level, your diet, all the balls that you're bouncing.
Hydration.
The drink water. If you're not drinking water, drink lots of water.
It helps a lot.
Yeah, I've got my water right here.
I got mine too.
So, but the big thing that we connected the gratitude and the vulnerability part, if you've not ever done that before, it's actually pretty interesting to think about. So in Entrepreneurs Organization, we had a practice to create vulnerability instantly, but what it really does create trust instantly. And what we would do is the very first meeting we would have together, you'd spend 5 minutes a person and you share something that you're ashamed to share. And oh my gosh, tears start flowing like immediately. Doesn't matter who they are. I mean, I've dealt with some very big, as far as like, successful humans, but then like in 2 seconds, we're all just children again because we all just feel so, vulnerable sharing those things. And so vulnerability creates trust instantly if you're authentic.
Good point.
Right? That guy, now we all have a deeper trust for one another. And anytime someone's willing to be vulnerable, it connects humans because it says, you know what, we're not robots.
Which in turn, the byproduct is now that tribe, that little circle of people that experience that impact, they also now know they have permission to approach maybe just one person that was there, or maybe a group situation, whatever, but maybe they had no permission to be vulnerable prior to that. So it opens up willingness in groups, and it grows, which, Chris, you were bringing up staff. If you're vulnerable with your staff, and remember, don't take that the wrong way, it goes down to appreciating them, being grateful for them, letting them know that, you know what, maybe if you're not venting down too far, but your ops team might need to know, hey, it's going to be a tough week, but I'm trusting you guys that we're going to pull this off together. Like, here's what's going on. If they know you're a human and not a machine that's just cracking the whip, man, the trust builds, just like you mentioned.
Well, emotions are a state of being, obviously. And so I think that, vulnerability, and let's get totally into gratitude now. So vulnerability, I think, is a prerequisite for gratitude. So you can't be grateful for what you have, I believe, if you don't soften yourself up a little bit, right? And sort of just be like, wow. Kind of like watching, if you have kids, like watching when your kids are, my kids are getting older now, but when they were little, I remember pushing, Zella on the swing. Well, Zella's still little, but
I still push Zella on the swing.
Yeah.
It still.
A picture came out the other day of my 15-year-old Hudson, and Tyler knew Huddy since he was born, and he had a big old red fro when he was like 4, and and I was pushing him on the swing, and it was just
I saw a video of the poop and diarrhea song he wrote in the back of the minivan. Randy, you named that minivan Randy, and he was like 6 or something. Oh my gosh. Those are the things.
It's a classic. We
forget all about that stuff. Right now, Chris is laughing. He forgot what he was talking about.
Because now I'm remembering that. Yeah.
Yes. But in reality, that never went away. Even in our darkest moments, those things are the things that matter. And we think that the audit coming up is going to destroy everyone and my kids will melt in front of me and no one will be alive. Or, we get that real doomsday feeling sometimes, that intense. And as we grow, get a little older, get a little more experience under our belts, it's not as intense, those peaks and valleys. But the bottom line is
gratitude
is not being self-centered. So if we get out of ourselves a second and just have an exercise that pulls the lever.
If you're an egomaniac, if you're an egomaniac, which, listen, we're all leaders of some sort, and there's moments of trying to like feel stronger, and we've all gone through that as you get older. But if you're an egomaniac, it's very likely that you have a hard time being vulnerable. You just do, because when our ego's involved, we're selfish, like you said, and we out of selfishness, we're trying to protect ourselves. So there's a lot of fear. A lot of fear.
We put our walls up, and because if we think we have a belief system in place, and some occasions being strong and the optics in front of certain people or deals that are going to be done. Absolutely. But your core, your home base, your family, your ops staff that knows everything that's going on in the business, that core that is your family, they don't need those walls to be so thick and cracked and hard. Like there's a time and a place. It's just
I've noticed an observation, Tyler. We work with folks all over the world, the different entrepreneurs of different sizes. And I've noticed the bigger the entrepreneur. Now, I want you to listen to this, especially if you're newer to business. The bigger the business, the bigger the entrepreneur, typically the more vulnerable they're willing to be.
Huh.
Right. I've just noticed that, right, Tyler? I mean, think about like all of our interactions with our largest customers. They're amazing. And it's like, we absolutely just like throw it out there. Like, oh yeah, today's a rough one, whatever. When I talk to the little guys, it's always like, doing great. Everything's awesome. And it's like,
yeah, I appreciate you telling me that, but can we just move on to something else that matters right now?
We know that you're just putting on a shiny front. Yeah, shiny front. So that brings us to gratitude. So here's the deal. Okay. I'm one of the most optimistic persons ever. I always have been since I was young. So I'm blessed that I was born with that sort of attitude. But gosh, we get through so much stuff thrown at us that Tyler can attest, because he and I are like a married couple. I go through my lack of optimism plenty throughout the week. And so we have to practice it. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that the gratitude.
Chris is smart though. Chris takes it out on me, and then sometimes my family is cannon fodder. Like, why don't I just take it out back on you and save my family?
Oh, I'm sweet to my family. Yeah, that's it. I know you can handle it. So what gratitude does, guys? Okay, if I just sit here right now and I just tingle like it's Christmas, right? And you can actually see, if you're watching on the YouTube, you can see us start to glow when you start to feel gratitude. You can't feel you feel gratitude from the inside out. Other people can actually feel that, right? Selfishness and control and lack of vulnerability, you start to suck in. That's
your
where you
brow furrows.
Yeah, you're sucking in, and when you suck in, that you're more selfish. And then what you're doing is you're severing connections, so you're getting less help, which makes you more scared, which makes you more selfish. And that's the ego.
And you're unapproachable, and everybody's like, well, I guess I'll wait till he's done doing that shit. Excuse me.
Right.
Because I don't think he wants help right now, or something like that. It's this assumptions come into play.
The idea of closing versus opening.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they've actually shown, there's this exercise that I used to practice with the kids, Tyler, this, when my kids were younger and they would be broody, I would use this technique I learned from Tony Robbins years ago, where I'd make them stand up. And if you're listening to this, do this. Stand up right now, and I want you to look up to the ceiling, and I want you to stand as tall as you possibly can with your shoulders back. Pretend like you have a cape on, okay? And I want you to smile and put your hands on your hips like Superman, right? So now you're like a superhero looking up, and you're smiling, okay? And now, from that position, I want you to feel sad without changing your physiology. And you
can't do it.
You literally have to droop your shoulders.
You're feeling like a ding dong anyway, so you're laughing at yourself. Yeah, and it's too late by then, because now you're laughing and it's over.
So and your physiology.
Go into the science on that. What we have: endorphins, serotonin, all those.
So the two things that I like to, or I've heard a lot, and Tyler and I aren't experts on this, but from what we've read and stuff like that, you've got the cortisol and the oxytocin, right? So cortisol is what our bodies release to make us more alert, right? But it's a stress hormone. So you really don't want to release cortisol a lot. Well, guess what? You're an entrepreneur, so you're releasing cortisol constantly because you have another fire.
Another night in the shower. And then like 3 years later, your wife says, you're not that great of a listener lately, or something like that. That's all cortisol related, because you're just like grinding.
Yeah, you're trying to solve. So what it does is it makes us more aware, because it's basically the fight or flight hormone. It's that, oh my gosh, there's a tiger that's going to eat me. What do I do? Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so that is, and the more you put yourself in that state, and I say put yourself, notice, because I do believe that we have control of this, and habits are everything. So the more you put yourself in that state, you're creating a habit of being in stress, of having more cortisol. And Tyler and I, over the last 11 years together, we have had our own journey of there's been moments where I'm like super cortisol like infused, and there's moments where Tyler's super cortisol infused. And the coolest thing is, by daily working on it, he and I are getting to a place, Tyler, where I think we're more oxytocin than cortisol at this point,
Or
which
if
isn't.
someone's cortisol, we have really learned how to lead with each other too, to where I'm not cortisol at the time. Like I just had a sandwich, and I put maybe I got into gratitude for a second because my wife and I actually get to work near each other, so I can go take. So does Chris. So I can get out of reality for a second and go like enjoy my marriage for 11 seconds or minutes or whatever. And then Chris is like different time zone, right? 2-hour difference. And he's not at lunch and he's tripping, and we can let each other know it's okay too. So the cortisol, I can let it get mine going if it's that bad. Maybe it does scare me. Maybe it's a shitty problem, and I'm like, no. And now we're both doubled up.
No, we're both in it.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's 8 p.m. and we're like, oh my gosh, what's
But
on?
here's the secret.
Right?
Here's a secret. Here's a secret. We'll do an ASMR moment. Here's the secret.
ASMR.
Oh, I'm sorry. The secret is
that stands for Active Sound Modulation Expertise Module.
amazing.
I don't think
If you get yourself in gratitude, you actually solve problems better than when you're in stress and fear.
Yep, that's right.
So that's the irony, is that if you are actually, and part of that is what we just did, if you get quiet for a second, it's getting still. It's letting your eyes not move around and dart around. It's bringing yourself back to the room. If you got pets, go play with them for a second, because they can bring you back to, right? Or if you got kids, go push them on the swing.
Or take a walk. There's a million things. People think that
Nature's
what
a big
we're
way.
talking about right now, and there's people out there, probably not listeners to this, but maybe there are, that think that what we're talking about right now is worthless, and it's not their thing. You know what? I'm going to say that there are different belief systems, types of people, tribes, engineer mindset versus creative or mixed or whatever. And there's a lot of different things. But you know what everybody has in common? What we're talking about right now, everyone has access to. I don't care what your beliefs are. That's every human has this. So anybody thinking that what we're talking about is like a waste of time, fair enough. We have no control over what you think, but it's real.
Well, okay, so let's pretend like they're really analytical. Like, let's get to that. So Forbes did a study that shows that businesses that practice and promote gratitude from the staff. So in other words, the staff isn't feeling like, okay, guys, once we achieve this milestone, then we'll be happy. No, we're happy and grateful for the business.
You already.
Yeah.
We're super happy you're here.
There.
We went through a lot
we
to
have
hire
goals.
you. And
Yeah.
why would you forget that you're awesome like 4 months later and not talk to you anymore? Mr.
You don't wait for a seminal event to celebrate each other. The more we can do it today.
Jailhouse religion too. You don't wait for the crap to hit the fan to go, hey Johnny, how are we going to fix this? And he hasn't seen you in 2 months or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not the right approach.
Right,
the analytical mind is what you're approaching right now. And,
ideally, yeah. So the analytical mind might say, I don't need this mumbo jumbo in my business. And studies have shown that you'll actually have a 10% increase in revenue and productivity or more just from promoting these principles of letting people know that you actually appreciate them, of feeling grateful for one another so that there's deeper connection and camaraderie. You'll notice what Tyler said earlier about selfishness accompanying the lack of vulnerability and gratitude. They're kind of like, they're literally flip sides of the coin. So what's the other side? Oxytocin. So when you're grateful, you actually emit, they call it the happiness drug. You emit oxytocin, and you can actually fake it. You can do what I said earlier. You can stand tall. I can just feel so good about everything. I can feel like Superman, and all of a sudden my body will start emitting it. And if you think about it, remember when you were a little kid and you wanted that thing, and Christmas morning perhaps, or something, like a birthday or something for you that was take yourself to a super exciting childhood moment, and you'll realize you are surging with oxytocin. You have that gratitude, happiness drug going through you. If you put yourself in that moment all the time, like it's Christmas, you start to get goosebumps. Right.
And it's not fleeting either. It's not like you can, unless you need to be medicated, I suppose. I don't know. We're not doctors, but it doesn't just go away. It doesn't just end. You don't just fall off a cliff after you feel that way, after you've taken the chance and choice cognitively to change your mindset for a second. It doesn't just go away. It would take a lot for you to just 20 minutes later be in the pit.
There's a residual echo every time you practice it. That's a great point. Yeah, no, you're right. So there's a residual echo every time you practice it. And the more you practice throughout the day, every day, the more it becomes habit. And the one thing that I think will really help a lot of you, especially as owners, is when you wake up in the morning, and I have to practice this too. Every morning when I wake up, I have to go, I want to grab my phone because I know that I'm getting lit up like early morning, first thing, right? Because we have customers in different time zones, all sorts of stuff's going on.
Right.
So I have to not grab my phone or have it in a different room. I happen to have it next to my bed, but I don't grab it. What I do is I spend 5 minutes and just lay there in gratitude and just make my body feel ready for the day.
Right.
Please practice even 60 seconds of that, and I guarantee you'll start your day a little brighter than starting your day with worry or with stress. Start it with oxytocin. Don't start it with cortisol, right? Don't let that stress.
If you're gonna like say tomorrow's the first day you're gonna try it, or maybe right now, you could try it right now. And let's say it's day one that you really haven't in the last few years been able to really practice something like that. Some people are crazy. They do yoga in the morning, meditate for 30 minutes in silence. Like that's intense. We're not saying that, even though that's high level stuff.
That's another talk because we both, Tyler and I both have some morning routines.
Quieting your mind. Can you even imagine the two of us with a quiet mind? Well, we've been there, Chris more than me. And but that first little 60 seconds Chris just talked about, and then you do it again tomorrow. What I do is I wake up and instead of just grabbing I mean, let's face it, I'm scuffling across from my bed through the kitchen, use the restroom, and my whole mind is such an espresso addict. So it's literally thinking coffee. You know what I mean? And that's cool. I enjoy it. I love it and whatever. But you know what I do before I drink the coffee? Because coffee's intense on your tummy, right? Full glass of cold water. I drink that first. It wakes me up. I can feel it on an empty, slept-on stomach. It circles around in there, and then boom.
Your body gets dehydrated while you're sleeping. It's one of the best things you can do when you wake up.
Chris, right after I drink the coffee is when I calm myself, or the water. And I'm waiting, and the coffee's brewing. That's my little moment where I'm like, I look out the window, and nothing matters for a second. I might not. Maybe the kids aren't even up. I haven't thought about them yet. I'm just quiet for a second. So
that's terrific. That's a great practice. So have that throughout the day. I will say, I heard on a podcast recently that this is from a doctor who said that they've actually shown that your sleep cycles by going outside, and Tyler does a lot of chores outside. I do some, but some mornings I'll have to force myself, like first thing, if you'll go outside first thing with that first cup of coffee rather than watching the news or something horrible, if you'll go outside first thing,
horrible,
right?
Like face it, don't death. Like don't
feed yourself poison. Go outside. If you'll go outside and get a little bit of sun, I don't know if it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes, but it's a very short period of time. Your circadian rhythm actually resets its clock. So your body will be better ready for sleep at the end of the day, just from activating it by some exterior sun. And so even if it's cloudy out, they said your body actually has the same reaction. It's sort of like it turns it on going, it's daylight. So calmness, activating yourself for the day, using nature to get yourself in gratitude. You know, Tyler, I did something the other day. My mom she's doing great, but she's had a lot of health issues. And we were all sitting outside last weekend after a barbecue. And I literally, because you and I have been talking about this a lot lately, I literally sat there while they were all having a fun conversation. And I just sat for probably 15 minutes without saying a word, just listening to everybody laughing and being in gratitude. Just celebrating them. Just like internally, just internally going, you guys are so awesome. I'm so lucky for this moment that I get with the family members that were present. Right. And so it's important to not don't wait. Here's the gist of this whole talk, guys, and this is the takeaway that I personally hope everyone gets, Tyler, is don't wait for it to happen to you. Don't wait for an exterior moment to make you feel gratitude, like, oh, woohoo, we got the big customer, or woohoo, we signed up 10 new students, or whatever it is. Don't wait for that. Because if you wait for that, then what you're doing is you're basically feeding yourself with the stress poison for possibly months on end, and only celebrating wins every now and then. So celebrate your wins throughout the day, all day. And here's the irony of that practice. Number one, it gets easier and easier. Number two, stress dissipates. Stress can't live in gratitude. Gratitude kills, it's the stress killer.
Right. Well,
all stress is a made up, stress is a made, what do they say? It's praying for what you don't want. It's a made up prayer for what you don't want. That's what stress is.
Right. And it's also usually about a bunch of stuff that isn't even going to happen in the first place. So, and hey, when all else fails, guys, all this has been a great talk, but stressed spelled backwards is desserts. So if all else fails, literally go find a quiet spot. It won't stay quiet in your mind for too long, because a hot fudge sundae has a lot of sugar. So that's going to thing to your body. But it's not a bad thing. And if you got to do that, you got to do it. But for real, folks, Chris is right.
Well, but it's good, because then you're at least breaking that cycle and being grateful for that amazing Sunday or whatever.
Right. And then when you're done with it, you roll out of your chair and you go for a walk. And but no, for real, guys, don't let circumstances dictate my day. That's what somebody taught me years ago in business. And I was young. I was in my 20s. And I guess I must have been it was private mortgage banking VP of the West Coast at Wells Fargo. And I'm sitting across from his desk, and I had been a decent producer for a while, and something happened and it wasn't good, and production was down, and I must have said a bunch of excuses or something. I don't know. I was like 24, 23. And he was so nice. And he's like, Tyler, he's like, something I learned, because he said, and this is beautiful, he said this as well. He didn't say it to me. He said, you know what someone told me once, Tyler, and I practice, is to not let the circumstances dictate my day. So I segue that every time. If I feel like it's a thing, I then also know that this principle is true too. And that's the spirit of this podcast, is that at any moment of any day, I can start the day over.
Mm-hmm.
Time is weird, guys. The past, we hold so much onto the value of the past, and a lot of it can be good accolades and successes that motivate and say, I could repeat that. I'm going to build a system around that, and I could repeat this thing. But there's things in the past that do not matter as long as you've learned from them if they're bad. But there's things that maybe weren't even your fault that are bad in the past that don't matter. Like that's not, I'm ashamed. Like, why are we worried about it? It wasn't even. So the point is moving forward this second, now this second, now this second. That's all we have.
That's all there is. By the way, if you're one of those victim people that sticks in the past a lot, because you'll notice only victim people stay in the past. Optimists are actually more future thinkers, which can be a trap too. Because like you said, present is all there is. So whether you're optimist, future thinker, or whether you're more of a pessimist, victim, past thinker, okay?
Did you just
I'm sorry, but it's just
make
true.
All that up? Optimist, future thinker? Optimist?
It's the way I look at it. Now, I love to debate, by the way. If you guys think I'm wrong, tell me. Let's talk about it. But I personally look at it that way. I think it's true, because I think that everyone I know that they're pessimists, they're the ones that they like repost that one success they had like 100 times on social media, because they're such negative people that they'll always waller in the past, good and bad. Like they're never going to where they're headed or in the moment. They're always wallowing in the past. So if that's you, just know it's a habit. You just created a habit. It's okay. We all have them. We have habits of however we behave. So what this habit is trying to do is bring you now, not future, not past. It's trying to say right now, I'm good. Right
Yep.
now,
And there's
I'm good.
something out there, guys, that's everybody has it. There's something bigger and stronger that we all respect in our lives. Every individual can be different. It can be God. It can be the ocean. I don't care what your belief system is. I have mine. But I try to harness that spiritual power that's bigger than me first when I sit down and just say thanks. I'm like standing here, drinking coffee, breathing. And then I made kids. Like I made two humans. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like they're cool.
You
And
see,
then, by the way, Chris, they're looking at me all the time, and I'm a type A, got a lot to say, and boy, our business is stressful this week. What are my kiddos doing? What's good? What good's going to come out of that? You know, so I get grateful first because that's the only way I can make them amazing later.
Mm-hmm. And it's the only way that you actually listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're stressed or worried about the future or feeling guilty about the past, you're not in the now,
right?
And they can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the funniest part. There's two things in closing that I'd like to impart. One, there was a therapy years ago I read about the Merida Therapy, and it's a Japanese therapy. And what they would do is if you were struggling, they would have you sit down and write down all the things you're grateful for and make lists, right? And all the things of all the contributions that had happened to you. And you do this over a period of time. And I think the lists are pretty long. And I did it back then. And it's incredible when you start doing, because you start running out of things you're grateful for, right? So you'll be like, Tyler, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful for, my passions. I'm grateful for my kids. You should go through it all. Now you're like, oh, I'm running out of things. Oh, wait, I'm grateful for the HOA. Oh, wait, I'm grateful for my hardware store guy that just answered that question. Oh, wait, I'm grateful for that really nice person that just helped me at this place. Oh, wait, I'm grateful for. All of a sudden, you start realizing there isn't anything you have that you did. Everything that we have and are is in connection or conjunction with something or somebody else, an external. In other words, how can we not be grateful? Everything, this shirt, the roof over our head. Do you know how many thousands of years humans messed up on roofs before we could have these roofs that we have over our head right now?
A lot of flat humans that didn't make it.
Right. And so there's just so much that's happened. So I think that's important is to do that. And then lastly, I'll say, if you want to make an easy way to do that, this is, a lot of you might or may not have had this. It's called the 5-Minute Journal, and it's by intelligentchange.com, the 5-Minute Journal. I have my kids doing it. I do it. And basically every morning you just say, I'm grateful for, and you say the 3 things you're grateful for. You say, what would make today great after that? Okay. And then you say an affirmation of what you are. And then at the end of the day, you do an unplug. So it's a very simple way to start with 3 things that you're grateful for. And if you do that every day, guys, it's going to start to wear off on you, and it's going to become more and more. And, I even find myself, before I walk in our school, in my car, I turn off the radio for a second. I'm usually talking to Tyler. So I say, Tyler, I got to go. And then I put myself in gratitude for a second. And then I walk in. You know why? Because Tyler and I teach children, and we've got students all over the place. And so I don't want to walk in with that negative energy.
Who's that big angry guy storming through the building?
And we all have, right? But I don't want to do that anymore. So I've really been trying to make a conscious effort before I enter our operation to make sure I enter from gratitude, because people can feel that and they feel your connection.
Right. That's huge. Well, you know what? This is our gratitude episode. We've been wanting to do this, and that young man, that business owner really shook. Chris and I made an impact. And so we wanted to just bring a little bit back to you. And guys, you got to realize, Chris and I talking about this, we get to grow from it. So when 2 people are together and they're conversing and they're sharing gratitude back and forth, whether it's about their friendship or maybe a topic like we're doing, it's cathartic. It renews our mind by doing this podcast, and helps Chris, even though we're trying to help you. And it helps me, even though we're 100%. Trying to. So we're glad we got to do that with you today.
Well,
Chris.
you know what's so funny is we talked earlier about how you can't be selfish if you're in that great state of gratitude, but it's ironic because selfishly, right, you're better off. So by sharing it, by discussing it, by thinking about it, it is serving you too. It's just not a self-centered serving. It's more of an interconnected.
Well, we could do a whole thing on service, by the way. But if you want to help others, which entrepreneurs, that's what we're doing. We want to help our teams make money, feed their families. We want to solve a world problem of some sort, a business problem or whatever. And so we want to serve, right? Serve, serve, serve. How do we help? How do we help? How do we help? If our cup is on fumes, if Tyler's cup is an eighth full, and then I'm trying to help people and I'm throwing the last drops that I have to try to help someone, what's my motivation there? My own cup, and Chris called it like being selfish and concentrating on ourselves and finding a gratitude so that our cup of appreciation and selflessness starts to fill up. When it hits the brim, we can dump service out on people. Like
That's
we actually
right.
are worth something at that point. So it takes a bit of work. If you're finding that this is hitting home hard right now because maybe your cup is a little empty, email us. Email.
And if you have practices that work for you, also let's share amongst our community. And Tyler, what you just said is so important. I like to look at us, basically our battery, like an easy way for me to think about it metaphorically, is that I'm powering our staff, each other, my family, inside out. So in other words, when I'm in the presence, let me just take like you as an example. I want to power Tyler. I want to give you more. And as soon as I do that, it's a gratitude state because I'm coming outside of myself, right? Anytime you're worried or you're stressed or you're cortisol, like we said, you're sucking energy in. Don DePani, he's a business guru. He calls it being an energy vampire. And so you're an energy vampire. You're sucking it in. He's like, stay away from energy vampires. And so you want to not be that. You want to be a power pack. And living in gratitude makes you an energy power pack, I believe, right?
And it's infectious. And it will spread, and synergy will happen. And if you're in a gratitude hole right now at your company with your teams, you're not gonna get out of it overnight. They might think you're full of crap the first week, the second week, and then finally, like month 3.5. I have this personal experience, by the way. About 3.5 months later, all of a sudden they're like, "Dude, this guy's not changing. He's like this now." I'm telling you, it never goes back. It would take a catastrophe to bring it back to where our teams, what I'm speaking of, would get back to where it was through that growth. Like it's unbelievable. So if you're in that, you start digging out now.
You just brought up a memory that I've been using lately is my great grandfather, and my late great grandfather was the happiest man I've ever known. He would laugh with his whole soul. And he was a big man. And I just remember his entire body shaking all the time from laughter. Just he had that big, huge laugh all the time. And I remember one time I was like 13 and I was being broody. And he's like, son, what's going on? And I'm like, life stinks. And he's like, what? Life's amazing. And then he just starts laughing. And he's telling jokes all the time. And he's always, and so I realize now, I bring him up because I realize now that it was a habit. He had created that habit in himself where he was just always grateful. So let's all create that habit. Let's work for it every day, just a little bit, and know you're not alone. And if you're having a bad day, cool. Start again tomorrow. Or start again right now.
Start again now. And it's right at the end of your fingertips. You have more power than you realize. Just flip the switch. So, Chris, thanks for talking about gratitude with me today. And to all you viewers, remember this podcast is fueled by teacherzone.com. If you don't know who we are, go there, check it out. Get our ebooks. There's a couple of them there. You can see that at teacherzone.com/chaos. And just be part of the community. Email us, stay in touch, and we'll see you next time.